Hello and welcome to The Financial Dad, where I, your average young adult, ask my dad, your not so average financial advisor, all of my burning finance questions. And yes, this is my real dad. Buying a car. In this video, we're going to be discussing the ins and outs of everything you'll need to know about it. We're going to talk about budgets, payments, buying versus leasing, and more. So, with buying a car, what are the first couple things I'm going to want to keep in mind?
Well, the first thing is, what kind of car do you want?
Okay.
Obviously, there are a lot of different kinds of cars, right? So are you looking for example, a sedan or a convertible or a pickup truck or something, a hybrid, whatever. So you have to make that decision. What is it that you're looking for? Some of that may be driven by how much you can afford, right?
Yeah.
Which is the really kind of the key thing to it all.
So how can you tell what you can afford?
Okay, so most people, one way or another, they're going to have a monthly payment for a car because unless it's a $5,000 used car, most people are going to spend $30,000 or more for a car. So they're going to be borrowing somehow or leasing, one of those two things. Online, there are a lot of calculators that can show you if this is the cost of the car and I want to pay for this many months, here's approximately what that car should cost. And obviously any dealership, also if you go to a dealership, they'll be able to calculate all of that for you. So you want to get an idea of that. And there's a kind of a rule of thumb in financial planning for people that 10 to 15% of your income should kind of be the maximum for a car payment.
Okay.
Nobody's going to let you borrow money to spend 50% of
That you
your
don't
income.
have.
Right, yeah, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, there are also a bunch of other costs that go into paying for a car besides the actual car payments.
Yes.
What can I expect to pay in terms of like maintenance?
Oh, well, maintenance might be anywhere from $100 to $1,000 a year, depending upon whether you buy a car that has maintenance-free, warranty on it kind of thing, like a new car kind of thing. Or you buy a used car where you're going to have to pay for oil changes and all kinds of fluids and things like that. The number one cost, though, is going to be gasoline if you buy a gas-powered car. So you all know, you know what it costs at the pump, right? You see it
Too much.
To buy gasoline. So that price changes constantly, but that's the number one cost of having a car is the gasoline.
Gas.
Then the second cost is probably insurance. That's going to be typically probably $1,000 a year or more also. So, and the younger you are, if you're paying it for yourself, if you're not on your parents' policy, for example, or something like that, that could be $2,000 a year. So those are not insignificant costs in addition to a monthly payment on a loan of a car or a lease of a car.
Yeah. I wouldn't have even thought about insurance if we weren't having this conversation.
Yeah.
So if I know how much I can afford, where should I actually go to purchase a car? What do I do next?
Well, there are two basic ways to do it. One is a dealership.
Okay.
If you know kind of what brand you want, for example, you can go to a dealership and see what they have available. But the number one way that people buy a car today is they go online and they look for what they think they want, and they get an idea of prices, and they get an idea of where nearby that it might be, because obviously it's nice to find a car you want, but if it's 3,000 miles away, that doesn't help, right?
Yeah, you need a car to get there.
And therefore you can't get there. So most people look online to start the process, to be honest.
So now you mentioned at a dealership you can buy or lease a car.
Yes.
What are the main differences in those routes?
Okay. So leasing a car, think of that as renting the car, as opposed to buying a car would be owning
It's
a
yours.
car, right? Yes. You build equity. Well, you have equity in the car if you buy the car. And if you lease the car, you're just paying for your use of it for a period of time. And when that time is up, you hand the car back to the car company. That's the number one difference. Second difference would be that with leasing, you can often put far less money down. In other words, if you don't have enough of a down payment, leasing a car might make sense because you don't have to put a very big amount of money into it at the beginning. Whereas when you buy a car, a down payment is typically going to be something like 5, 10, 20% of the cost of the car. Is whatever the loaning company, a bank or whatever, is going to be looking for you to put as a down payment. The less down payment, the higher your monthly payments are in either event. Okay, just so you think of it that way.
It evens itself out.
It does, in effect. The next difference is that if you're going to drive a lot of mileage, buying a car sometimes makes sense. Or if you think you're going to, because you're going to pay, if you go over the amount of miles you're allowed with the car, you're going to pay more money at the back end to give the car back on a lease. Whereas if you own a car, you use the car as much as you want to or as little as you want to. But if you're going to use it a lot, it often makes more sense to buy the car. So those are some of the key differences.
So let's say I've decided to lease.
Okay.
What would the process of that look like?
Well, typically a lease is done when you are going to buy through a dealership again. Okay. So if you're going to buy it through the dealership is going to arrange a lease for you.
Okay.
And the person that you're working with, call it Melissa for the sake of argument. Okay?
Melissa.
Melissa will work with their company to arrange a lease for you and get you set up to qualify for the lease, etc.
How would I qualify for it? What kind of information are they going to need?
Yeah, the first thing they're going to want to know is your income, because now we know what the payment is, right? We've already figured that out. They want to know what your income is, and they're going to do exactly what I said, that 10 to 15% kind of range. They're going to look and see what percentage this represents of your income. If it's 50%, they're going to say no, because you're spending too much money on a car, right?
You don't have enough money to live.
Yeah, right. If it's 10 or 15%, that's good. The second thing is your credit history. In other words, if you've had loans before, have you paid them back? If you have a credit card that you've been using, have you been paying it off on a regular basis?
Okay.
So they want to be sure that you have a history of paying back money that you borrow.
Yeah.
Whether it's a lease or a loan, that's going to be the same concern. In fact, it's basically the same between the two.
Okay.
Because either way, they're putting up money for you to buy this car.
Yeah.
And they want to be sure you're going to pay it back and that it's not going to be too high a percentage of your income.
So say it is too high a percentage of your income.
Yeah.
Say you're, 17 and just getting a new car or a used car. Is there a way that you can have a parent or a guardian or someone who will have enough income to help you cover the cost?
Yes, if you have a parent or guardian, as you said, it would be someone that's called either a guarantor or a cosigner. Okay. If that person or persons can qualify for the loan, they can sign for and with you, basically. Okay. You're primarily responsible, but if you don't pay, then they're responsible. It's kind of how that works.
Yeah.
And then the good thing about that is that you will build up credit history by paying off that car in a timely manner, but they are there to help you in the event that there's a problem paying it off. Right.
Okay. That's very good to know.
That's how an awful lot of people get their first loan on a car.
Say I decide to go with the buying process instead of leasing.
Okay.
What would be the main differences there? How would I start that?
Well, buying means you're going to have a down payment.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the first difference between the two. So you've got to make sure that you have enough money for that down payment. Whether you buy through a dealership or you buy privately, and you can buy a car privately, you can get a loan on a car without going through a dealership to buy it. Okay. Either way, it's going to be a very similar process, except if you're buying it privately, you're going to have to find a company to borrow from.
Okay.
So your bank, for example, if you go to XYZ Bank, you may want to go to them and see if they'll give you a loan or co-sign for a loan.
So if you did it through a dealership, the dealership would help you figure out the loan too.
Yeah, they'll typically have a bank lined up for you. Okay. That's part of why the dealership gets paid for what they do.
It makes it easier.
It's a service. They help you get it all done.
Yeah. So if I'm going the private sale route, are there different things I would need to take care of that the dealership would normally take care of in terms of like actually handing the car over, making sure it's okay, it works, it runs?
Well, yeah, the first thing to do if you have a private deal, if you're buying without a dealership, you probably want to have a mechanic look at the car.
Okay.
And go over the main parts of the car, the things that can break down and are very expensive in the car, etc. Because when you buy from a dealership, typically you're going to have some sort of protection that if something goes wrong with the car, there's a warranty or something to that, okay? But when you buy privately, there's usually no warranty whatsoever. So you want to have somebody check the car.
Yeah.
The other thing is that if you don't buy through a dealership, the whole process of contracting the car, having a contract with the seller rather, the process of getting a new title on the car the process of getting your first registration on the car and the license plates for the car, all of that is on you rather than it being on the dealership to handle for you. So it's a different process on that front too.
It's more responsibilities. You mentioned title and registration.
Yeah.
Could you just give a quick, what are those?
Title is the piece of paper that says you own this car.
Okay.
Very important piece of paper to protect.
Yeah.
Because it says you own this car. Registration is the piece of paper that says you're licensed with the state to drive this car on the roads. Okay, your license plate number, you're all in good.
Yeah.
You've paid up, you're insured. All those things are checked in the registration process, as opposed to just the title, which just says you own the car.
So if you lease or buy from a dealership, do you have to worry about setting those up yourself?
No, typically the dealership handles all that for you, in my experience.
Okay, cool. Awesome. So are there any things that you need to be doing throughout the year to take care of the car?
Yeah. Yeah.
What are they?
Yeah. Great question. So there are parts of a car that need maintenance, whether the car is electric or gas powered.
Yeah.
Gas powered needs more. So gas powered needs oil, for example, air filters, different parts that can wear out, spark plugs, things like that. So a tune-up.
I'm gonna nod like I know what that is.
Well, okay, yeah. Let's do a different video on how a car works. Okay,
Sure.
The inner workings of a gasoline combustion engine.
Yeah.
So you need to be taking care of these things. Oil, for example, change the oil every 3,000 to 5,000 miles on a car is typically it. But that's just a matter of going to someplace local. You can get it done very quickly, very inexpensively, typically, unless you have a car that has synthetic oils, which are more expensive. So then you have your windshield wipers periodically need replacement, or your brakes need to be redone. Your tires need replacement, or they need to be what's called rotated.
Yeah.
Which means you move them around because you get different uses in different parts of the car. So things like that, yes, there is maintenance involved in a car to make sure that it's running optimally for you and doesn't, basically stop working when you need it.
Yeah.
to use a phrase, yes.
Excuse my French.
Beep.
Well, great. Well, that does answer all of my questions.
Okay, great. Good.
So really excited about my new car. And I hope all of you guys are also feeling prepared to get your car new or used. And if you have any questions, feel free to hit us up at our website. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you have any questions for us, feel free to reach us at our website and make sure to click on to the next.